Welcome to One Word a Day. I'm Sophie, your pilot into the universe of Chinese, and welcome to the last day of 2024. And after a month of going over classical, most famous and celebrated poems in Chinese, which is quite a kind of a marathon for me, because it's a long commitment of each episode and try to make it as succinct as possible. But each poem also deserves its own time to have a little bit of a deeper dive of language, of structure, of how the thoughts behind it were formed through the words, right? So today I'm kind of wrapping a bow of this poetry reading month. And we're talking about 如诗如画, like poem, like painting. And here we're not talking about poetry. Even if we use poem or poetry, we compare something to poetry, something to painting. What is that thing? That thing is nature. Chinese, if you look at the Chinese paintings, water, ink on a piece of white paper leave a lot of blank space for you to imagine, to project your own sense of space, of the details. You fill in your imagination to um, very efficient and economic use of strokes on what's in there, what's solid in there, and most space, empty space, is filled in by imagination. That's Chinese way of painting. And the way to paint, a lot of times, okay, the subject of painting, there are like a civil life, a busy town, marketplace painting. There are such, or like some rich people's life. Okay, the Western cultures did a ton of portrait painting. I guess only rich people back then can afford a painter to portray somebody in that grandeur of all costumed up and prompt. It's the Instagram of their age almost, right? Except it's probably not for public, but for the family heritage, right? Have that big frames of a very vivid, detailed oil painting of portraits. But Chinese don't paint portraits of humans. We probably have the most collection of subject of painting is nature, the mountains, the waters, the lakes. Not sure about the ocean. Even if China has a long coastline, but it was not like directly facing the Pacific. It's the inner seas next to Japan, Taiwan, the Southeast Asia Sea, all that. It was more like a land-based culture. So it's more about the lakes, rivers, mountains. So that's nature reflected in our paintings. And we use 如诗如画, this expression, to compare the beautiful scenery in nature we see. We experience immersive experience in real life person experience in that nature and that all inspiring moment. The best compliment we give to nature is to compare to our own creations, which is poetry and painting. And I translate it as poetic, picturesque. I guess that's the highest compliment of what nature would look to us. And this particular photograph almost have a tinge of how Chinese painting will look like. It's this fuzzy view of nature and a very economic strokes strategically placed so that you kind of see, not see, you have that interplay of of the ink versus blank. Okay, so 如诗如画. Again, Chinese has no hesitation of using the same character in the same expression twice. And 如, comparing to 如, to poem and painting, this comparison is made of the mouse symbol, means somebody giving the order, and the woman symbol on the left side, which is somebody who is following the order. And this one obeying the other eventually becomes this comparison of if you see one, if you hear the order, you know it's going to be executed, basically. And this comparison of A to B is constructed by such order following. Even if, I mean, from today's criticism, or DEI, or in today's standards, following order expected on women to be submissive, that's not politically correct in today's age, right? But that's historical truth in the past. And this female figure was expressed by the behavior of arms folded in the front and have a hip showing in there. And that's the abstraction of female. And specifically, this is a female that's not married, before motherhood female. Okay, that's our like. Poem, we have the speaking sign on the left. It's made of, again, the mouse symbol. See, the two are the same, just proportionally a little bit different. And then we have the tongue symbol that's spewed from the mouse symbol. Okay, the tongue symbol is made of this pointer thing, pointing down toward the mouse. That means something is inside the mouse. And the thing that's inside is expressed by the second kind of a curved line that's stylized, but it's intersecting with this pointing, this needle, fall on the needle, means that's the inside that we're talking about. So inside the mouse is the tongue. And we have mouse tongue in the same tongue image. Two horizontal lines, we can view it as heaven and earth, or two sound bars diminishing over time and space. The whole imagery on the left side means speaking. On the right side, we have three finger hand symbol. 1 inch down pointer, that's our pulse reading. And we use the pulse reading. Not only mean this is 1 inch exactly for us, but it also means when we do things in a measured way. I guess through 1,000 years of medical pulse reading practice, people determine this 1 inch down is the ideal location for you to detect somebody's pulse. Okay, then we have the planting symbol on the top. So this trident-looking thing above the ground is planting, or something plant-based. Together, 是, it means farming under a measured way. So as you can imagine, before industrial age, farming activity was the most important to survival of the society. So measured farming practice become eventually, in the past, the majority of population is farming population, right? And measured farming is what's on the right side. But eventually it means all kinds of measured activities, not just farming. So this measured activity paired with speaking means you speak in a measured way. And that's how Chinese define poem. What's the difference between words, like what I'm saying right now, versus poetry? I don't have the capacity to just utter poetry. That requires lots of training, reading the best language, right? Memorizing lots of things that have, just like ChatGPT, you memorize a ton of material, then maybe you can create in real time, come up with poetry. But poetry handed down over generations to us, like what I showed you this month, probably not improvised, right? Somebody commented up, and a lot of editing afterwards that make just the word right. And poetry in Chinese, a lot of them are depicting the views in nature. So when we compare the sceneries in nature, we compare it as if it's in a poetry. It's a natural transition, because just like a painting, the main object in our painting and the main object in our poetry, a lot of them, is the scenery, the nature. Okay, so 如诗, then 如画, the 画, we again have the three-finger hand symbol, right? This time it's on top of the frame and it's holding down a staff, which is this ancient writing tool, not a pen, a pencil. It's this toothbrush thing. I believe a long time ago in one episode, I showed you this not toothbrush, what am I saying? The paintbrush thing. Then this lens on or overlaid by this farm field symbol. Farm field is this box, means a space, and a quarter cut in it in 4 quadrants. And that's a Chinese super simplified way to express farmlands, because farmlands in Chinese are cut into lots for a different family, just like a housing market today in the world. You have to cut bigger piece of land into smaller lots to individual households. Same thing, except in the past, it's for farming purpose. So when we see this box with cut in the middle, that's farm field. And then we have this 4 strokes on each side of that farmland, just visually. It means you draw out the border line of this farmland. So ancient times, this hand, okay, whoever in the past can use the language are people close to power. And whoever is the hand that holding the brush to draw borders of that farmland is somebody in authority position to do this kind of zoning, right? It's depicting, draw out the lines, the border lines between village to village, or, your neighbor and that neighbor. So it's somebody who is in an authority position to do that. And this lotting, drawing out the outline, this boundary drawing thing eventually extended into drawing or outline in the painting. And then we fill in, we shade it, right? Eventually becomes more intricate way of drawing. But that started from the farmland drawing the outline, the borders first. Okay, so that's painting. Like poem-like painting is our way to complement the beautiful nature, to give you a sense of as if it's depicted in a poetry, depicted in a painting. And that's the highest compliment to the scenery. And I hope you enjoy this month of Chinese poetry. And I think it's a perfect sense of how Chinese would have this association of nature, appreciation of nature, and abstract that into words, into poetry, or into drawing, either linguistic or visual expressions, because either linguistic or visual is a simplification of the complex and beautiful real thing, three-dimensional thing that we're living in, right? So these level of abstraction made into words, into poetry, or into painting is the highest compliment. It's almost like art imitated life. When life is so good, we are going to say it's like a piece of art. And it's in the end self-complimentary, right? Because the art we're making is so good that we will compare anything that's outstanding in nature to it's as if it's artwork. I hope you enjoy, and I'll see you next year. Thank you for your time.